Greetings. Now is the time once again where I check to see if everything is working. Yeah, looks like everything's working. And I see that it's been listening to me even before I started. No, that's fine. Well, we are here. It is Monday morning, March 23rd, 2020. So I wanted once again to say hello and see how we are doing. Hello. How are we doing? I hope everyone is doing all the various things that they need to do as far as just, you know, self-maintenance. Did you sleep? Did you hydrate? Things of that nature. I hope that is the case. Sleep is a strange animal for me, as always, but you know, we're getting there. There is a thing. I actually have a CPAP machine that it's tricky to use at times when I have congestion, which is a lot of the time, just in general, in life. For the last decade or so, maybe 4 decades, and so it's a tricky proposition to make use of it. But I'm going to try to start using it a bit more at this point, just for various reasons, and to see if that helps out with anything. But we shall see. We shall see. See, there are times when it messes certain things up, so I don't want it to do that. But we'll see. Well, you know, we're figuring it out. Also, let's see. What shall we talk about? I will tell you that apparently it is National Near Miss Day, which I found out. But apparently there are many holidays that well, you know, we knew this. Ever since the publication of the book 365 Reasons to Celebrate, we've known that every day is taken up as a holiday of some kind somewhere or another. Several holidays, in fact. I found out, though, as I was looking, that today is Near Miss Day, and that is interesting because it commemorates the day a huge asteroid nearly missed hitting the Earth. It was apparently March 23rd, 1989. It says here that an asteroid the size of a mountain came within 500,000 miles of a collision with Earth. So it got pretty close. That would have been a problem. Apparently it was about as big as Washington, D.C. So we kind of dodged a bullet there. And we're 31 years later, yes. Trying to remember what I was doing in March of 1989, and it was probably school. I was in high school by that point. It was. I'm trying to remember because I graduated from high school in '91, and so one has to do backwards math. 89 to 90. Would have been junior year, and so 88 to 89 would have been my sophomore year of high school. So March of '89, I was was dealing with yet another year in the a school that was at the time an all boys Catholic high school. It's a thing. But that is its own story, which need not be repeated so much here. It was an ordeal. I will just say that. Yeah, these things happen. Hi, hello. I'm just Basically, I'm doing the reminiscence thing as we're finding out what holidays today is. See, so no asteroids lately, probably. I don't know. I haven't checked. Maybe there have been some. I haven't heard about any because we've had rather a bit of news saturation with another thing that's very important. But aside from that, apparently it's National Chia Day, which I presume involves. I know. I'm burying the lead, apparently, for those of you looking at the screen and shouting right now that it's also Cuddly Kitten Day and National Puppy Day. I know. It's okay. It'll be alright. I will get to it. But, National Chia Day looks like it apparently heavily involves chia seeds. The event does not currently have a sponsor. That's unfortunate. And I have no information about it aside from that it exists. That's nice. Okay. Do they have anything on Cuddly Kitten Day? Yeah, oh no, yeah, they've got reams on the Cuddly Kitten Day. Because it's the internet, and it is powered by cats. Usually 2 to 5 kittens in a litter. Okay, this is just celebrating a litter of kittens. Is that how this works? Social life of kittens expands as they get older. How to observe. Okay, if you have a kitten, celebrate the day by cuddling them. You should also celebrate your cuddly kitty by giving them some treats or toys. Once you had a kitten, they've grown up to their adult cat. Perhaps you have some photos from when they were young. Does it make them consider adopting? It also does not have a sponsor. That's unfortunate. Yeah, so I mean, it just basically it has no information here about how it happened. Or what its origins are, which saddens me, because we should know about these things. That kitten is very tiny. So it is probably... No, they don't know. Okay, it just sort of was an idea released into the world that took flight. Okay. Well, that's fine. That's good. Wait, is there a link for National Chia Day? Will they tell us more? I know we're desperate to learn about National Chia Day. With the Registrar of National Day Calendar, they recognize the tiny yet powerful chia seed that has earned the reputation of being one of the most nutrient-rich foods on the planet. And it talks about the Maya and the Aztecs. Doesn't explain why this was recognized or what it is who petitioned for it, whose idea was it. I'm curious, basically. Wait, there's an infographic that tells us all about chia seeds from the desert plant Salvia hispanica. The Aztecs and the Mayans enjoyed it. And apparently this person likes chia seeds a lot, because they don't have to grind them and they find them tasteful. Also wants to compare it to other foods, and okay. Apparently they can be used as a skin hydrating treatment, so that's something. That's interesting. And there are recipes. There's a recipe here. Okay, so for those of you who are fans of chia seeds, that's a thing, apparently. I'm getting these all off of checkiday.com, CHECKIDAY.com, and then some of them I was actually looking on another page, which I may go back to in a moment. Yes, National Puppy Day, for those of you on that side of that particular fence, assuming there's a fence. It has its own website. Founded by Colleen Page in 2006. There we go. We actually have information there. And this is, okay, so this website is talking about what we're doing right now. And why do Adopways celebrate from the founder? Okay, cool. For those of you into puppies, and I mean, you know, they're puppies, they're delightful. One should look into that. It's also apparently OK Day. I'm not sure what that means. It's National Melba Toast Day, though. That's, if we want to talk about burying the lead here, that's probably the single most important. Is it? Is it really? Because what is Melba toast, and how did the special day come to be? It's a thin, dry slice of bread that has been toasted to a crisp texture. Originally named Toast Marie by its creator, famous chef Auguste Escoffier. I've heard of Escoffier. And Dame Nellie Melba took ill, was on a limited diet, including dry toast, quickly renamed Melba Toast, became part of her diet when she was ill. So 1897 or 1901. Okay, so it comes from an opera singer. I didn't realize that, you know, I always kind of was of the opinion that Melba Toast was just toast that it had something special done to it, but not really. It's just toasted to a crisp texture. Interesting. Okay. I know, it's basically a... It could be considered a massive cracker. I'm not sure. It's... a cracker of some size. Is there like... I'm wondering if there's like a degree of brownness the bread has to get for it to be considered officially Melba toast or not. I don't know. I'm not going to experiment with it because I don't have any bread. But, you know, these things happen. Also, let's see. World Meteorological Day, which I'm curious about. Nothing about founders. It's been observed since 1961. No information, but there's a World Meteorological Organization, so that tells us something. People like weather, okay. Understandable, understandable. Weather can get very interesting if you get into the science of it. It's very, very strange, very difficult to figure out. Those of you into Harry Potter, apparently it's Ravenclaw Pride Day. Okay, well, I'll bite what's okay day. Apparently there are multiple sources here. Oh, is this the birthday of the okay expression? Oh, there might be useful information here. It's believed the first used in the 1830s as a slang word, particularly by those young and educated. Okay. This is the popularity of it. Is there like an actual... It's the 178th birthday of OK. This was written in 2016. So we've had like 4 more... It's 182nd birthday today. The word appeared in print in the Boston Morning Post to make fun of a rival paper, it says. OK made its first imprinted appearance on March 23rd, 1839 issue of the Boston Morning Post as part of a playful diatribe directed at a rival paper, the Providence Journal, after quoting the journal's description of an outing by the Anti-Bell Ringing Society. The Post critiqued their account as follows, emphasis ours. We said not a word about our deputation passing through the city of Providence. We said our brethren were going to New York in the Richmond, and they did go, as per post of Thursday. The chairman of the Committee on Charity Lecture Bells is one of the deputation, and perhaps, if he should return to Boston via Providence, he of the Journal and his train brand would have his contribution box, etc.'s okay, all correct, and cause the corks to fly like sparks upward. A lot of, they're sort of talking about them being self-celebratory, it looks like. Interesting. Okay is supposed to stand for all correct, which of course it does not, strictly speaking. Okay, right. Okay. There we are. Alright. That's interesting, actually. That's amusing. Okay. Thank you, Carajamo. Yeah, Carajamo. All right. So, holidays. their thing. And I think I shall spare us this day in history. I shall not go sifting through that. But yeah, it's, you know, it's a thing to look at. Apparently, also National Chip and Dip Day for those of you who are fans of that. And so that's what we have happening. I think what I shall look at now. Wait, I have to go to the. I have to go to this view so that I can show it to you once again. Is we're going to talk about the book that I've wandered in and randomly grabbed off my shelf this morning, and so the some of you are probably aware of the author Roger Zelazny, and most notably, we did a short campaign of Amber Diceless, which is based on a series of books that he wrote, the Amber series, which is about a family of immortals living at the center of the universe. Perceptually speaking, people who have control over the reality that they pass through by changing it, walking through, changing it, and so he wrote a bunch of other stuff. But it's the Amber series primarily that he gets looked at for, and I mean, you know, to my mind a good series of books that actually changed the way that urban fantasy is written, as it turns out. His sort of style of kind of combining he was the one who kind of came up with the idea of combining a kind of almost Raymond Chandler-esque sort of detective novel first-person approach with the fantastical, I'm pretty sure. In this type of description, basically taking these fantastical things and sort of throwing them down and jumping on them and saying, what the hell is this thing? Okay, what if you did this with it? And I mean, you know, I'm generalizing. I mean, if you want to go back and go back to roots of various things, you should also go back to like Lord Dunsany for the idea of like taking you know mythological tropes and bending them in a different direction to serve something, making them all part of the same world. But Zelazny, I think, was the one who majorly made it popular to actually look at fantasy in that way. He also wrote a decent amount of science fiction, and it's actually a science fiction book of his that I wanted to talk about. This is I'm going to turn off the green yeah. Hang on. I'm gonna turn off the filter for just a second. So I mean, you can see what the cover is about. It's not really much about what's in the book too much, but there it is. But today we choose faces. Chroma key, thank you. I know words. I know the words, and it's actually right there in front of me. The word chroma key. But for some reason, it did not leap unbidden to my mind, and this is a problem I have always had. I know the words. They're not getting because there are too many to try to dip into. I try to dip into the word barrel and the wrong ones come up. Anyway, hi, how's it going? Today We Choose Faces is an interesting book because, to me anyway, I think it's very severely underrated. A lot of people don't get into it if they're looking into Zelazny's stuff. Again, because he's, you know, it's a you know, they look at him for Amber primarily. And then I think to a lesser extent now the Night in the Lonesome October has gotten somewhat more popular. Not than Amber, but it's gotten, you know, it got more popular in the years following its publication. But he had there. Okay, so I'm going to be honest here. Zelazny is one of my favorite authors, but there was a lot of sort of shotgun method in the books that he wrote, and they're not all great. They're all, the ones I've read have all been interesting, but there are a lot of them you can kind of tell he was sort of figuring out what he wants to do with things. rather than doing them. And this could arguably, a lot of folks I think of this book as that. But the reason I single it out is because I ended up devouring a lot of Zelazny's work a few years ago, and this one stood out very much for me because of it's actually turns out this one's to my mind really good because of the to a certain extent because of the concepts it plays with. It goes into this idea that you have, and I guess. See, the funny thing is that it's what I'm about to do is okay. I'm going to give spoilers for a book published in 1970 in the 1970s. By the way, 1970s spoilers. Spoilers for 1973. Here we go. But it's this idea that basically you have this novel starting out with a person who I believe is basically a hitman or a mob boss of some kind. And he gets, you know, he's killed, but or almost killed, and he's put into a sort of stasis, kind of cryo sleep of some sort. He gets then he gets sort of pulled out and resurrected years later to do a hit on someone, and this is like in the far future when he's like they've got him in a strange flying suit that he goes off and he does this. And after he does, he goes into this person's compound and learns all their secrets, including how to split yourself off into multiple people. And that's where it gets really interesting, because it's not entirely clear that that's what's going on at first. But so it's basically it goes even further into the future. You have this thing, this far future, where, you know, this person's running around, and it's in first person, you know, trying to deal with the something, and you know, it finds out maybe someone's trying to kill you, and he does get killed, and then his consciousness seems to transfer, and we go to another person who is suddenly getting these memories. But they're the same person. They're effectively we find out they're all clones of the same person, but they share memories. Whenever either one of them dies, you know, they go into the memory pool, or you go into like the central lab and you pull a pin that you've put in place to keep all the consciousnesses separate, which is the thing you forge a new pin when you want to create a new identity, and start over. And you pull the pin, and the memories come flooding back. So it's very interesting to me because it plays a lot with identity. He's like 7 different people throughout this novel. So the title is very much throwing it off. Today we choose faces, because it's really all the same face, for the most part. There's a twist in there at some point, but I think it's very cool. It's very interesting the way that it plays with it and addresses it, and you just sort of go on this journey of each of these different people until they either die or as you know, they change fundamentally because he's going in and remembering things from previous lives because he's gone in and he's pulling the pins. And it's like, wait, no, I know who this person is. This is my rival. And you learn more and more as you piece together what it is that has happened. And it's that it's actually, you know, it's really they're all this one guy. And it's fascinating, I think. And then there's this idea of kind of a rogue consciousness also kind of taking some of them over that I won't get into too much here, in case anyone desires to read the thing. But yeah, of anyone who might be combing through Zelazny's other works, trying to find one that's good out of a lot of the ones that are okay, this one is good. So I do recommend it. Today We Choose Faces. I recommend that one and This Immortal, which I might talk about at some point. If one is looking, again, through those non-series things. And of the older stuff. I will say, now, Zelazny was writing basically of a period from the late 60s through the mid-90s, I believe, at which point he passed away from cancer. This book comes from 73, so it is dated. There's certain things in Zelazny's writing, and this shows up in the Amber series as well, where he has his depictions of women are not great, and I think, yeah, I am of the opinion that these were done basically fairly innocently. He wasn't really thinking about it. Probably negligence is what it is really, but it's, it was not unusual at the time for that to be going on, but he gets better with it as time goes on and you get into the later books. He kind of becomes a little more aware as one gets into the later stuff that he wrote. Kind of what it is that is in fact going on. So it does have that issue, but it's not overpowering. And again, it is. I will say it is hard to get out of when you're doing first person. You can't really get out. It's hard to get out of that, that character's head. This book gets close to getting out of the character's head, but it's all the same head, as it were. So it's, you're in the narrator's perspective, and if the narrator's a male, then that's what's going to happen. So with those caveats, I'm not saying that's an excuse per se, but or that the times are necessarily an excuse per se, but it's it's an explanation rather than. In any case, I still highly recommend folks check it out if they are interested in looking for something to read right now from the distant past. For it is such a thing. So I think now I'm going to unbox the thing for you. For me, really. It's for me. It's all for me, really. I got a package. Wait, we must return to this view. I got a package in the mail a few days ago. I have left it untouched for a while. Enough time to allow anything on the surface of the box to die off, one believes. But yes, anytime that one gets a package and it says it's from Mighty Cook Games, Tammy Webb Ryan does a lot of their mailings, we know what this is going to be for. For I backed Invisible Sun, so this is probably an Invisible Sun thing. It could actually be another thing, like a Cypher System thing. Because I've backed quite a few of their projects because I have a Kickstarter problem, as we well know. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open this thing up, and I will find out what it is. Because like I said, I have a Kickstarter problem, and I'm not sure what it is. I have an inkling of what it could be, but I can't be 100% certain until we open the box. As is the principles that we all know and love from physics. Ah, I see the waveform collapsing now. Okay. All right. This is not a book of any kind, but this is a thing I ordered. Obviously, it's a thing I ordered. But there was a very short Kickstarter done for this. No, not for that. It would be for this. So this is a case to contain some of my Invisible Sun books, because there are so many now. This is actually, I believe, this is the case meant to contain the core books that are in the black cube, so that I can have them out, and not have to open the freaking cube and close it up again every time I want to get at the books. So this is going to come in quite handy. I don't do a lot of physical books for RPGs these days, but that is an exception, because of the nature of the thing at the time. So this it is very pretty. Of course, it has the Path of Suns on it, which folks may use if they so desire to figure out what sort of magic is ascendant right now and what's influencing them. So that's very cool, and I think most design is done by Bear Whiter, I believe, over there, and he does an excellent job. So this is very cool. So I am very much looking forward to messing with that, playing with that in the near future. So let me see. I think I am trying to think if I had anything. This may be a short transmission today, because I'm trying to think if I prepared anything else, or if I was going to talk about things for much longer. This has been like half an hour. There is a possibility, by the way, as we're talking, for as long as we talk, that hello, good morning, hi. There is a possibility my phone may ring at some point, because I'm expecting a call from somebody that I'm going to have to address. There is rather as we're dealing with stuff, one of those unpleasant calls that you don't want to have to deal with, but you have to. So that's probably going to come in at some point, and so I may leap off if that happens. But let's see, was there anything else interesting, at least remotely slightly interesting, that I wanted to get into as we're kind of wandering around aimlessly in the ether of the in the ether of things today. We had a delightful, I will say, we had a delightful session last night of Dark Matter, whose GM is with us in chat right now. Hello. It was there was a lot of very cool. I enjoyed the RP quite a lot, because that we got to do some deep digging into some of the RP for a couple of the characters, so that was very enjoyable. Because it's like one of those things where it's like I have this thing. I think I said this online somewhere, but I have this tendency sometimes with certain campaigns where I'll start and I'll have very, very threadbare, if anything, sort of backstory, and then by about the second or third session, it starts coming out in torrents. This backstory just starts occurring to me spontaneously, and I start trying to write it up sometimes. The fire hose, yes, the fire hose gets turned on. And this was a case of that. It's just basically it's like she messaged me about a thing that's like, oh, you might know this. I'm like, wait a minute. So that's sort of these spurts in which the backstory comes just sort of happen as like a sort of sudden sparks will come up, and I'll be like, wait, I know why this is the case, and we click things into other things, and it's very neat that just sort of that process of just sort of building a character. Found Space 1889 Red Sands interesting. Do you have plans to do more? Maybe. Space 1889 was cool. I had I had fun sort of looking at the setting and toying with the setting a little bit. I know there's a lot more beneath the surface. I don't have plans yet, but you know, I'm thinking about it. I'd like to do more, I think, at some point, just to kind of get in there, dig in, and get more into the lore of the thing. Because what I did was essentially very much a slapdash. It was for a one-shot, right? So it was very much a sort of a me trying to come up with genre-appropriate stuff to throw at the players. And I kind of... and this seems to be happening a lot lately with some of the systems, some of the more traditional systems that I've been running for one-shots. Where it's like you have to come up with something ahead of time. Because this happened for 50 Fathoms, and it happened for the Cypher System game we did most recently, which was Shotguns and Sorcery, where it's just sort of like I try to, instead of going to a specific module to run, or, you know, standalone adventure, something along those lines, I will try to build something in my head, a scenario of some kind. Usually within the... Some come to me sooner than later. For Shotguns and Sorcery, I just sort of started reading the book and it popped in there. And that's usually what I try to count on to happen, hopefully, is that I'll just be reading the book and it'll be like, okay, a thing will show up in my head. And that kind of happened also for 50 Fathoms. It took a little more work for that one, for me to figure out, okay, well, let's ask the players some general questions as to the kind of thing they want to, the kind of thing they want to do, and kind of go from there. And you know, then I sort of sculpted it in that direction. With Space 1889, that kind of happened as well, to an extent, because it was like, okay, I've got to get this together as soon as possible. You got a little behind because, of course, you know, this was last week. Things were going crazy. So it's like I started seeing what one of the players was doing, and I was like, okay, I can lean in this direction somewhat. And then I was like, okay, well, do political intrigue. And then as I finally was able to get through some of the reading, I was like, okay, well, it's good to know where these things are politically. This is going to be a little weird to try to maintain in my head all at once. I'm going to need like a party with a bunch of guests. But I also want to do stuff that involve the tropes that we see in these things, like, you know, just someone... And I was like, okay, let's do Heart of Darkness a little bit, because why not? We haven't done that... I haven't used that trope in a game for some time. You know, basically Apocalypse Now. And it was funny because one of the players also came up with a character concept that was going to be similar, but unfortunately he wasn't able to make it due to tech issues. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm just free to do this then, and not necessarily. I won't be able to tie him into it, which would have given more background on kind of the bad guy they eventually faced at the end. Yeah, no, it's just this idea that this colonel had gone crazy, just dealing with these fights that he'd had to deal with, these battles that he'd had to deal with. Upon just sort of seeing this weapon that can level the playing field, he's like, screw it, the fighting's gonna stop now. I'm gonna make sure no one gets up on me again. And so yeah, there was a so that was kind of the background of what was going on there. And then one of the characters had a nemesis that I wanted to get involved as well, and so there was intrigue and stuff happening on the airship that they were using to get there, because of course there had to be an airship. I ended up, as I was sitting there, I was like, I've got to, okay, just figure out a system for figuring out who these people are they're going to encounter and what sort of web you're trying to build here. And I was like, okay, pick out some countries, okay, and a couple of Martian ones, okay, and then figure out, okay, how do these relate to each other? Then it just got to the point I was like, okay, damn, I got to find some people. And so I just started looking for diplomats from 1889. And then that's when things sort of started tumbling down. I was like, okay, fine. I just grabbed a bunch of their pictures and stuff to show the players, and was like, yes, okay. Now that I have names, on these formerly faceless diplomats they're going to be dealing with, now I've got an idea of how these people are going to interact and what's going to happen when they try to interact with them. And so it became very much that sort of thing, and that's how the whole first 2/3 of that session happened. I wish I just had a little more time to try to connect the first part with the second part a bit more, because there was supposed to be a connection, but we didn't really get into that, and I hadn't fully formed it in my cranium. So if I'd had more time to chew over it ahead of time, I might have been able to figure out how to kind of make those connections a little bit better for the players as things were going on. But I had a lot of fun with it. So yeah, I definitely want to try and revisit it at some point. I just have to figure it out and deal with the time. Oh no worries. Basically, I just wanted to talk about that for a minute. I'm gonna probably. So it's possible these things do come back. Like RVR came back as a short series, as a mini-series, as a mini-campaign, and 50 Fathoms will be coming back as a mini-campaign, as it turns out, because folks, I actually put a poll up, and folks voted on it, and 50 Fathoms was pretty high up there. 50 Fathoms and Trail of Cthulhu. Which turns out that I sort of stepped a little bit sideways on Trail of Cthulhu, and I'm going to be doing an actual, just regular Call of Cthulhu campaign, mini-campaign coming up, because I need to learn actually how to run the system. I know how to play it. I have, for decades, been playing it, but it's like I'm not at the point yet in my head that I'm... There's a point, when you're like reading through a rule book, or at least for me, when I'm reading through a rule book, or I get to a certain point where I'm like, I must figure this out. Where I feel comfortable winging it from that point on, basically, if I have to. And I haven't reached that with Call of Cthulhu because I've never really read much into the books. The Lovecraft I have, but not the rule books. Especially the way they've changed now. So I want to get at least some foundation of that into my brain, so that I can actually perhaps do something with it. That's also part of the D&D problem. It's part of the reason I haven't run D&D on this channel yet. Doesn't really have so much to do with the whole, I'm wanting to do things differently here. I am, but at the same time, I don't really have anything against D&D or running it on this channel. It's just that I haven't had time to read the new edition, the 5th edition books, and so I want to try. I'm somewhat into the players handbook, but I want to get further to the point that I've got a little more of a grasp on the core mechanics, and sort of know what happens where. And again, I've played D&D 5th plenty of times, but I've got to get it where I'm going to be comfortable, basically, that I feel like I know at least enough to be able to go in different directions. And again, it's not even a question of how effective I would be even just, going now. It's more a question of just like, do I feel comfortable enough not to be freaking out constantly when I'm doing this? And that's really what it's about. To do that, I kind of need to have at least just the knowledge in there that my eyes looked over these pages that have this significant information in it at one time, and therefore I can go there again. That has to be in there. Let's see. I suppose this is a random but good time to ask a question. Of all the characters that Anino has played in Game State, which was the most memorable? This is a good question. Because, Nevermind is up there. Nevermind is definitely up there. the that one springs to mind immediately, because there's a whole thing. Where, so Nevermind is was a character Nino played that was very much kind of the artist formerly known as Prince, or it was very much as Prince, or more specifically, kind of somewhat based, I believe, on the Nevermind was memorable both in the in Dungeon World and in Munchausen when you brought him back. But I think that that we built up this whole thing. He was a bard. He was a bard character. That was just very amusing. Is basically the kind of the what was it? I remember it's like you sent me a picture, and you sent me a picture of what you were going to play, and it was basically as David Chappelle as Prince. I was like, brilliant. And then we ended up getting to riff on it later, which was freaking awesome, because we had this point where he was trying to deal with these contracts from someone that he was trying to get out of, it ended up. I was like, okay, how did Prince get out of this contract? He changed to the hieroglyph for a few years. And if you will, and I'm not sure which, there were like 3 clips of that time, but if you will permit me, I have pulled up one of these clips, and I'm remembering here. It doesn't do any points of damage, but it hurts. Let's see if it's actually going to play. It's not playing. Dagnabbit. Not unlike a sort of a hieroglyph. It's like you can probably hear it, but it's not actually gonna show on the overlay I'm seeing. Well, that's unfortunate, but dang it! I thought for a moment. I thought for just a moment. I thought for just a moment that we'd be able to do that, but we were not, as it turned out. That's okay. It's an odd thing, OBS. But no worries. No worries. Let me see if I can actually make it. No, I can't. It's now frozen as this one thing. Okay, well let's get off of that then. Yeah, no, it's basically, so we got to play off it where there was this test they had to pass in a cave. Because of course there's always a test you have to pass when you go into a cave. That's the rule. It like this test that they were all doing of these different elements, and one of them was sort of more fire or lava, and he ended up, each of them sort of, that were dealing with these elementals as they were going through, were sort of marked by them as they passed through. And for Nevermind, it was on his hand. And I said, it's sort of this strange hieroglyphic symbol shows up on your hand. And you realize suddenly that now you can use this as your name if you ever want to perform without being under contract. And Nino played it off beautifully. It was great. It was a glorious moment. Is all I have to say, really. So that was a lot of fun. I'm actually gonna, I'm gonna try one more time, because there's a, I think I might have figured out how to make it work. Just to show even just a wee bit of this. I'm gonna turn down the music on on this for just a moment. I'm even going to pause the music because I have that power to do that. It's as though there's no background music now. Isn't that amazing? It's like I've gone mad with power. But let me go ahead and see if I can pull this over here and turn up the background just enough here so you can hear what it is that goes on there. All right, here we go. Need points of damage. It doesn't do any points of damage, but it hurts. And as he pulls his hand back, you see that a symbol, not unlike a sort of a hieroglyph, has appeared. Dang it. On the palm of your hand, of Nevermind's hand. And you realize that now, should you ever wish to take on a different name or identity, you can use this symbol as that, if you so desire, to confound those who would bind you to a contract.
Okay.
The artist formerly known
Exactly.
as Nevermind.
Well, it makes sense that one took the contract. It's a rock producer.
And good night, folks. But anyway, yes, that was the first part of that, and then there are more parts in here somewhere. But it's just glorious. Yeah. Yeah, Brian was hysterical there too. That Brian. Yeah, by the way, that's Brian who's going to be running the sprawl when we play it. But he comes in for that. But that was a lot of fun. That campaign we were running the using the City of Pillars sort of supplement that some folks put out for Dungeon World, and we turn the music back on. There we go. It sort of takes place out in the desert, and it's very Harryhausen because it's sort of sets you up to go and get the Gorgon. But it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that campaign as a thing because I like Dungeon World in general, and so that was just a very cool thing where we could explore this thing. In Dungeon World, I actually was very pleased. I was able to figure out how to sort of run spontaneously fairly early on. I've been doing that at cons for a while, where I just have folks sort of figure out things about their characters and about the situation, and they kind of go from there. Yeah, I think I actually found the I found the moment here. Hang on. Let me see if I can I want to see if I can actually make this work. Okay, I think it's going to work. Where I found that the moment afterward there. Let me see if I can just once again go back over here and pause the music, and then we're going to come back over here and we're going to turn this back up, and let's see kind of how this goes. All right, because this was like right after that this happened.
Hands. Not Nevermind, just an artist. And then he'll just, step aside and then walk forward and, join.
Yes. Yeah, they gesture at the door. I kind of wish you'd gone last. Who's next? Okay, that was the third part. So that's the problem with clips is that you have only so many, or rather you have them show up in a particular order, and you have to find them. This might be it.
There's a tint of shame when he's like, "Listen, man, I can't."
Probably not it.
because it's fire. It's what he does. So,
and I presume you're still trying to figure out more about how to do it, but it's if the idea is it has to be done by the patron, then that's a bit nuts. There might be more ways around it, but there'll have to be more powerful magic for that.
Yeah, there's a lot of angry staring at the contract.
Oh, that's right, he couldn't get that. Burst into flames, damn it! Couldn't get the contract to go away. So I think my next one other thing also then, Nino, at some point you can if you would be interested in doing so, feel free to come up with a name for your patron, and we can deal with that whenever.
Sony.
Very much like very appropriate. Very much like real life at that point. So yeah, so I guess the it's like the thing with clips is that unless you can like find a way to organize them in some degree that they just come up by number of views, and so it's like, wait, which one am I looking for? It's hard to say sometimes, and maybe it was this one that is not labeled for whatever reason.
Sans. Not never mind. Just an artist.
That's the same thing. That's the same one. Anyway, you get the idea. Oh, you linked the Munchausen story? That's cool. That was a lot of fun. That's this whole the Munchausen game was a lot of fun. Just basically getting the getting to play that finally for the first time, because I bought a copy of The Adventures of Baron Munchausen in London in 1998, I think it was. I actually got to go on a little trip to Europe. My grandmother took me, and I wandered into the Orc's Nest. Is the name of the gaming store in London, and went in and saw this Adventures of Baron Munchausen. The RPG, and I had to pick it up, and it was a delight. Yeah, we're basically just that's part of what this whole channel is about. Just me going through the backlog of games I never got to play. That's pretty much it. I mean, that's the main reason it came from the Late Show is showing up on the schedule now, because that too was a game I wanted to run back in the 90s, and it never happened. So it's slowly getting through them. Well, and in many ways, it's a thing that I like a lot about the streaming platform, and also the the idea of just playing online in general with folks, because what I have found over the years is that it is very difficult to get together a group of players for anything outside of a particular set of games, whatever set of games they're interested in. More often than not, that's going to be Dungeons & Dragons or Pathfinder. Sometimes you'll find clusters of groups of people dedicated to BattleTech or to Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, or World of Darkness. But it's like it can be hard to, your gaming group is by and large, because those are the people you're most likely to meet. They're your gaming group locally by and large is going to be made up of a lot of such people. So bringing them a lot of the more indie stuff, the stuff outside that, can get, some folks aren't comfortable with that. So it's infinitely easier, I found, to put out a call online, because then you can find the people all across different cities who are interested in playing these oddball games that I like, and they actually get into it. But that's also part of the reason why I try to run different games at conventions and things like that, because I want to get people, who are all like in an area interested in something. had I my druthers, and should things, at some point I would, were I a millionaire, perhaps one thing I might do in one possible life was go around from convention to convention running a bunch of different indie games for different people. Just to get it spread on local levels. But it's doing it this way, not bad. And actually, arguably reaches more people. So that's entirely possible. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, and hopefully we shall get through the list. It is still a long list, a long ponderous list of different games that I need to get through. I don't know. Would this be interesting at all if I actually show the Excel sheet? That's dangerous. It's dangerous showing the Excel sheet. Maybe I'll show part of the Excel sheet. I'm kind of looking at. Oh, I actually scheduled those. I need to change the color of this. It's a. Yeah. Actually, there's stuff on here I can't necessarily show, but now I just basically do this thing where I will. Oh, that's right. I separated into two lists recently. I have basically these long lists of games that I'm considering doing, and different kinds of campaigns I might want to run, and things of that nature. Let me see if I can do a thing where I'm only showing the part of it that I would like to be seen right now, just for the sake of... I'm not showing others because I have, for security purposes, because some of those have people's names on them. Because there are certain games that are like certain people have expressed interest in, and I try to make a record of that. Let me see if I can. Let me see if I can indeed get a view of the spreadsheet, what I am using. I do have a list that I go back and I periodically update, this is a thing of games that I'm kind of interested in having happen. I recently separated this into a couple of things. On the right, I have this I start on the right, and I have games that I'm considering. And on the left, I have the actual queue of games that I'm scheduling, and so these are the games that I'm scheduling to play over the next 6 months, and these are the games that we've already played over the course of the channel. Or most of the games we've already played. It's not all of them. And then on the right, I have basically I make a list and I alphabetize it of a bunch of different games that I might like to get to at some point, or I want to at least consider. Some of them I may need to look through more before I can decide if I want to include them or not. And then I highlight in yellow the ones that I need to have coming up sooner, that I think are going to be more interesting to go to next, but that I need to start looking toward reading more of, if I possibly can find the time to read them before I schedule them, which has not often been the case, I will say, lately. It's usually I'm cramming it in at best the week before, but we're working on it. And if I need to change the schedule as a result, I need to change the schedule. That's fine. And then I have like a whole calendar that I do on another page, but I can't show that again because it's got people's names on it, and I don't want to compromise their security on the matter. So, so that's a thing. So there are many games still to get to, and I hope perhaps one day to get to all of them. There's like, although this list right now, even just the list on the right has like 142 things on it, so it's gonna be a little while. It's gonna be a little while probably. One never knows. One never knows. Okay, so we have been going for at least an hour now, so I think that maybe we're good. I can't think of anything else off the top of my head to look at or recommend, unless, okay, so, all right, I'll show you this one other thing real quick. I don't actually know very much about it, so I won't be talking about it very long. But there is, I found on the BBC site as I was looking for stuff this morning, this thing about inside the abandoned city of ancient libraries. The ancient African town of JYTJ was once a stopover for trade caravans and pilgrims in the Sahara Desert. As many of the people passing through were rich and educated, libraries started opening along the route to allow visitors to read and write. Today, the remaining libraries are fighting to preserve these ancient books in the hostile desert climate. I'm probably going to look at this video later, because it's, or sort of even as we're talking, because I am fascinated by things like this that sort of pop up, sort of historical sites and what have you. I'm just very interested in looking at those things. I never turned my music back on. I have with relative silence up until that moment. There we go. Okay, but yeah, I just sort of essentially where was the thing? There was the thing. So yeah, I mean, this is a thing. It's on the BBC site that I think I'm going to check out at some point shortly, just to kind of see what this is about. Look at the ancient books. Looking at the ancient books, and sort of figure it out. Anyone who wants to check that out, that's the link for that. Let's see. For anyone who wanted to, the links on the daily holidays that I was looking at. We have that one for folks who want to go in and explore the wonders of various holidays like National Chip and Dip Day. And on this day in history, things like 1888 Football League meeting for the first time. Adolf Hitler gets dictatorial powers in Germany on this day. Pakistan becomes an Islamic Republic. Archbishop Oscar Romero calls on members of the El Salvador Armed Forces to stop with killing their fellow Salvadorians. And in 2001, the Russian space station Mir plunges into the sea. Different things, different birthdays, different deaths. That's very delightful. And a link down here to what AM and PM mean, which, that's nice. But anyway, okay, enough of that. I'm, as one can tell, I'm easily distracted. I think we're going to go ahead and head out. Before I do, though, I will go ahead and throw down the reminder that, once again, Monster of the Week is got 1 week left for sign-ups. So you have from 1 week from today to sign up if you wish to sign up for it. Very much looking forward to that once we deal with that. So it's basically sign-ups for that close on Monday the 30th. So if you want to play a Powered by the Apocalypse game about hunting monsters, this would be the one. So do check that out if you're so inclined. I too am looking forward to the stuff coming up this week. Tomorrow we have Las Vegas. On Wednesday we have Masks. On Thursday and Friday I'm going to be over. We might actually not. I'm probably not going to do a morning address on Thursday and Friday, or at least not on Thursday. The timing on Friday I have to check in on because I'm going to go back on Dee's channel, Praxagor Thesmophoria. Reading more plays. We're going to be reading Sophocles on Thursday. We're going to be doing Antigone, and then on Friday, I'm going to be over there reading many different parts out of Richard III, so that's going to be a lot of fun. I don't know if that's going to be in the evening or in the morning on Friday. I know on Thursday Antigone is going to be in the morning. It's going to be like 11 a.m. But Friday, I shall have to double check. But we're going to be doing that. Of course, on Saturday morning, I'm going to be trying to be back here playing Frostpunk. On Saturday evening, we shall have Invisible Sun. I might be doing one or two other things on Saturday on another channel. We'll have to see. Depending on if anyone wants me for anything. And then Sunday morning, once again, I keep threatening to play classic games on Sunday mornings. Hasn't happened yet because I lose time trying to prep for the thing on Sunday afternoon. This Sunday morning might be a little different. I might actually get a chance. But Sunday afternoon, we have a development session of Invisible Sun that we're going to play with a couple of new characters that are going to be guest characters. And then on Sunday night, of course, we have Dark Matter. So that's everything that's happening this week on this channel, at least. So I thank you all very much for watching. I do appreciate it. And I think we are probably... Yeah, okay, why not? For anyone who wishes to hang on, I was speaking about Prax. I'm going to go ahead and raid her channel when we hit the end card. So anyone who would like to may feel free to hang on and say hi to her with me. In the meantime, take care, folks, and I'll see you all of a sudden.